When that I was and a little tiny boy, with hey, ho, the wind and the rain. A foolish thing was but a toy, for the rain it raineth every day. But when I came to man's estate, with hey, ho, the wind and the rain, 'gainst knaves and thieves men shut their gate, for the rain it raineth every day. But when I came, alas, to wive, with hey, ho, the wind and the rain, by swaggering could I never thrive, for the rain it raineth every day. But when I came unto my beds, with hey, ho, the wind and the rain, with tosspots still had drunken heads, for the rain it raineth every day. A great while ago the world begun, with hey, ho, the wind and the rain. But that's all one, our play is done, and we'll strive to please you every day. Hello and welcome, or welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. That is from Twelfth Night, a Shakespeare play which I have probably seen too many times and will never see again, most likely. I saw it many years ago at Stratford in Canada, the Stratford Festival, and I don't remember exactly how I did it. They had some kind of mechanism or something on the stage, and when that song was sung by the clown and finished, these huge flowers opened up into blossom, some kind of mechanical flower, and it was just absolutely beautiful. Of course, the beauty comes from the words, and such stage effects were just embellishments upon the words. But nevertheless, it was a memory which remains dear. I've seen it other times since. I don't think ever a bad production, but never with that kind of a closure or an ending. It has never been surpassed. So this is going to be my third in a series of videos reading some poetry from Emily Dickinson. This is a hardbound copy, which I normally don't use. I have a paperback of the exact same edition. And I feel that dipping into Dickinson's poems is perfectly suited to our time right now. She was writing somewhat during times of great crisis, and so we are living through times of great crisis. And barring any personal situations about which we know very little, I think one thing that we know is that Emily Dickinson had the stuff to meet with the situations and to keep on going and living her life. And so that is what I am trying to do on this channel particularly. And I think carrying on with this book is good. Actually, there are other videos in sequence of other poets whom I have read recently, and I will put links to this in the description box. I'm going through these pages and just picking out poems either that interest me and strike me as curious, or in some cases, poems that are just simply famous classics that probably most everybody encounters here or there. And then other poems which are just special to me. So I'm not thoroughly familiar with any number of these poems which I am going to present. I will stumble through as best as I can. And there is one poem that is really, well, I won't say anything more about that. So I think the last reading that I did, I closed off by reading the wrong poem, but that doesn't much matter. I can read it now if I can find the bookmark. I have these little tiny bookmarks which are hard to find. This is poem number 657. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors, of chambers as the cedars, impregnable of eye, and for an everlasting roof, the gambrels of the sky. Of visitors the fairest, for occupation this, the spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise. I may not know in every case exactly which poem I had selected, so it may take me a moment to peek through these and figure it out. 670. One need not be a chamber to be haunted. One need not be a house. The brain has corridors surpassing material place. Far safer of a midnight meeting, external ghost, than its interior confronting that cooler host. Far safer, though an abbey gallop, the stones a chase, than unarmed one's a self-encounter in lonesome place. Our self behind our self concealed should startle most. Assassin hid in our apartment be horror's least. The body borrows a revolver. He bolts the door, or looking a superior specter or more. (677). To be alive is power, existence in itself, without a further function, omnipotence enough. To be alive and will, 'tis able as a God, the maker of ourselves, be what? Such being finitude. I don't know if that was the one I had pre-selected. I'll do a couple here. This is 683. The soul unto itself is an imperial friend, or the most agonizing spy an enemy could send. Secure against its own, no treason it can fear. Itself, its sovereign of itself, the soul should stand in awe. Oh, I think this was the one. 685. Not revelation 'tis that waits, but our unfurnished. Oh, sorry. Tongue twisted there. 685. Not revelation 'tis that waits, but our unfurnished eyes. And 686. They say that time assuages. Time never did assuage. An actual suffering strengthens as sinews do with age. Time is a test of trouble, but not a remedy. If such it proved too, there was no malady. Yeah, Dickinson knew a thing or two. 692. The sun kept setting, still, no hue of afternoon. Upon the village I perceived, from house to house 'twas noon. The dusk kept dropping, still no dew upon the grass, but only on my forehead stopped and wandered in my face. My feet kept drowsing, still my fingers were awake. Yet why so little sound, myself unto my seeming make? How well I knew the light before, I could see it now. 'Tis dying I am doing, but I'm not afraid to know. (701). A thought went up my mind today that I have had before, but did not finish some way back. I could not fix the year, nor where it went, nor why it came the second time to me, nor definitely what it was have I the art to say. But somewhere in my soul I know I've met the thing before. It just reminded me 'twas all, and came my way no more. This just reminded me that sometimes folks think that the poet is obligated to reveal it all, to tell everything, and I don't think so. The poet may say what the poet chooses to say, and if that leaves some gaps for you, the reader or the listener, well, you have to deal with it as you choose. Ah, 709. Publication is the auction of the mind of man. Poverty be justifying for so foul a thing, possibly, but we would rather from our garret go white unto the white Creator than invest our snow. Thought belong to him who gave it, then to him who bare its corporeal illustration, sell the royal air. In the parcel be the merchant of the heavenly grace, but reduce no human spirit to disgrace of price. A lot could be said of that. I may have put 2 bookmarks in there, or else I missed one somehow. Well, I'll just go on. I don't know. I'll try 718. I meant to find her when I came. Death had the same design, but the success was his, it seems, and the surrender mine. I meant to tell her how I longed for just this single time, but death had told her so the first, and she had passed with him. To wander now is my repose. To rest would be a privilege of hurricane to memory and me. Mm. $7:30. Defrauded I a butterfly, the lawful heir for thee. Well, I'll try 7:34. If he were living, dare I ask, and how if he were dead? And so around the words I went, of meeting them afraid. I hinted changes, lapse of time, the surfaces of years. I touched with caution, lest they crack and show me to my fears. Reverted to adjoining lives, adroitly turning out. Whenever I suspected graves, 'twas prudenter, I thought. And he I pushed with sudden force in face of the suspense, was buried, he, my life just holds the trench. $7:40. You taught me waiting with myself, appointment strictly kept. You taught me fortitude of fate, this also I have learnt. An altitude of death that could no bitterer debar than life had done before it. Yet there is a science more. The heaven, you know, to understand, that you be not ashamed of me in Christ's bright audience upon the further hand. Let me go back to 7:39. I many times thought peace had come when peace was far away. As wrecked men deem they sight the land at center of the sea, and struggle slacker, but to prove as hopelessly as I, how many the fictitious shores before the harbor be. Mm. $7:47. It dropped so low in my regard, I heard it hit the ground and go to pieces on the stones at bottom of my mind. Yet blamed the fate that flung it less than I denounced myself for entertaining plated wares upon my silver shelf. Well, this is kind of a perennial theme with poets. 7:49. All but death can be adjusted, dynasties repaired, systems settled in their sockets, citadels dissolved. wastes of lives resown with colors by succeeding springs. Death unto itself exception is exempt from change. Here's a case where I don't know what I picked this page for. Everything is so good. Well, I'll do a couple. 765. You constituted time. I deemed eternity a revelation of yourself. Therefore, 'twas therefore deity. The absolute removed, the relative away, that I unto himself adjust my slow idolatry. And move into 766. My faith is larger than the hills, so when the hills decay, my faith must take the purple wheel to show the sun the way. 'Tis first he steps upon the vane, and then upon the hill, and then abroad the world he go to do his golden will. And if his yellow feet should miss, the bird would not arise. The flowers would slumber on their stems. No bells have paradise. How dare I, therefore, stint a faith on which so vast depends, lest firmament should fail for me, the rivet in the bands. Now that looks interesting. I'm going to wind up reading more than I intended. (780) The truth is stirless. Other force may be presumed to move. This, then, is best for confidence when oldest cedars swerve, and oaks untwist their fists, and mountains feeble, lean. How excellent a body that stands without a bone! How vigorous a force that holds without a prop! Truth stays herself, and every man that trusts her boldly up. A good poem for the hour. Speaking of which, 781. To wait an hour is long, if love be just beyond. To wait eternity is short, if love reward the end. (784) Bereaved of all, I went abroad. No less bereaved was I upon a new peninsula. The grave preceded me. Obtained my lodgings ere myself, and when I sought my bed, the grave it was reposed upon, the pillow for my head. I waked to find it first awake. I rose, it followed me. I tried to drop it in the crowd, to lose it in the sea. In cups of artificial drowse, to steep its shape away. The grave was finished, but the spade remained in memory. 795. Her final summer was it, and yet we guessed it not. If tenderer industriousness pervaded her, we thought, a further force of life developed from within. When death lit all the shortness up, it made the hurry plain. We wondered at our blindness when nothing was to see, but her Carrara guidepost at our stupidity. When duller than our dullness, the busy darling lay, so busy was she finishing, so leisurely were we. Mm. Eight, 10. Her grace is all she has, and that so least displays. One art to recognize must be, another art to praise. Eight, 15. The luxury to apprehend, the luxury 'twould be, to look at thee a single time, an epicure of me. In whatsoever presence makes, till for a further food, I scarcely recollect to starve, so first am I supplied. The luxury to meditate, the luxury it was, to banquet on thy countenance, a sumptuousness bestows, on plainer days whose table far as certainty can see, is laden with a single crumb, the consciousness of thee. And here is the poem I talked about, 8:16. A death blow is a life blow to some, who till they died did not alive become, who had they lived had died, but when they died, vitality begun. For many years I've thought of that poem, and then I've thought that as a poet, I wished I could write something like that. And then at some point, I have no idea when, after long years though, I wrote a poem and I thought, that's it. I captured that same feeling. God knows what that poem was or where it is. I don't think it ever made it into a book. It's in the papers somewhere, but I'll never see it. Oh, God. Well, let me read Dickinson's once more, 8:16. A death blow is a life blow to some, who till they died did not alive become, who had they lived had died, but when they died, vitality begun. And you will know this one, 8:29. Ample make this bed with awe. In it wait till judgment break, excellent and fair. Be its mattress straight, be its pillow round. Let no sunrise's yellow noise interrupt this ground. 875. I stepped from plank to plank, a slow and cautious way. The stars about my head I felt, about my feet the sea. I knew not but the next would be my final inch. This gave me that precarious gait some call experience. Yeah, I think Emily Dickinson could handle these times. I'm not sure if Walt Whitman could. Well, I'll give you 879. Each second is the last, perhaps, recalls the man, just measuring unconsciousness, the sea and spar between. To fail within a chance, how terribler a thing, than perish from the chances list before the perishing. (883) The poets light but lamps themselves go out. The wicks they stimulate, if vital light, inhere as do the suns, each age a lens, disseminating their circumference. I wish I could have an anthology with all of Dickinson's poems talking about poets. She understood well the Confederacy of Poets, I think, and also the poems wherein she remarks on prose. (890) From us she wandered now a year, her tarrying unknown, if wilderness prevent her feet, or that ethereal zone. No eye hath seen and lived, we ignorant must be. We only know what time of year we took the mystery. Then 892. Who occupies this house? A stranger I must judge, since no one knows his circumstance. 'Tis well the name and age are writ upon the door, or I should fear to pause, were not so much as honest dog approach encourages. It seems a curious town, some houses very old, some newly raised this afternoon, were I compelled to build. It should not be among inhabitants so still, but where the birds assemble, and boys were possible. Before myself was born, 'twas settled, so they say, a territory for the ghosts and squirrels formerly, until a pioneer, as settlers often do, liking the quiet of the place, attracted more unto, and from a settlement a capital has grown, distinguished for the gravity of every citizen. The owner of this house, a stranger he must be. Eternity's acquaintances are mostly so to me. (917) Love is anterior to life, posterior to death, initial of creation and the exponent of earth. (9:19). If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. (9:23). How the waters closed above him, we shall never know. How he stretched his anguish to us, that is covered too. Spreads the pond her base of lilies, bold above the boy, whose unclaimed hat and jacket sum the history. And I'll go on to the next one. Love is that later thing than death, more precious. No, sorry, goofed up there. 9:24. Love is that later thing than death, more previous than life, confirms it at its entrance and usurps it of itself. Tastes death, the first, to hand the sting, the second to its friend, disarms the little interval, deposits him with God, then hovers an inferior guard, lest this beloved charge need once in an eternity a smaller than the large. That one I wasn't quite prepared for. Well, 9:35. Death leaves us homesick, who behind, except that it is gone, are ignorant of its concern, as if it were not born. Through all their former places, we, like individuals, go, who something lost, the seeking for, is all that's left them now. And 9:37. I felt a cleaving in my mind, as if my brain had split. I tried to match it seam by seam, but could not make them fit. The thought behind I strove to join unto the thought before, but sequence raveled out of sound, like balls upon a floor. I have no idea which one I picked out here. I'm sure I could go through this book another time and pick out a completely different set of poems. 9:71. Robbed by death, but that was easy to the failing eye. I could hold the latest glowing. Robbed by liberty, For her jugular defenses, this too I endured. Hint of glory it afforded for the brave beloved. Fraud of distance, fraud of danger, fraud of death to bear. It is bounty to suspense's vague calamity, staking our entire possession on a hair's result, then seesawing coolly on it, trying if it split. I don't think that was the one that I had picked out. Well, let's try 973. 'Twas awkward, but it fitted me, an ancient fashioned heart. Its only love, its steadfastness in change unerudite. It only moved as do the suns for merit of return, or birds confirmed perpetual by alternating zone. I only have it not tonight in its established place, for technicality of death omitted in the lease. That was probably it. I will come back a time or perhaps two and keep going through the poems of Emily Dickinson. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.